Jake Morrison floated in the pilot's seat of his small ship, the Wanderer. His eyes were half closed as he watched the stars drift past the window. He had been working in space for 10 years now, fixing broken ships and collecting scrap metal. It was lonely work, but it paid the bills. His computer suddenly beeped. Jake sat up straight and looked at the screen. There was a distress signal coming from somewhere nearby. He frowned and checked the location. It was in the neutral zone, the empty space between human territory and Valorian territory. The Valorians were aliens. They had a huge empire with hundreds of planets. Humans had only met them 5 years ago. Most Valorians thought humans were primitive and not worth their time. Jake had never met one in person, and he was fine with that. "Should I check it out?" Jake asked his computer. "Not recommended," the computer replied in a flat voice. "Could be a trap. Could be Valorian military. Either way, dangerous." Jake knew the computer was right. Smart people didn't investigate random signals in the neutral zone, but someone was in trouble out there. He couldn't just ignore it. "Plot a course," Jake said with a sigh. 20 minutes later, Jake found the source of the signal. It was a small Valorian shuttle, the kind used by important people. The ship was badly damaged. Burns covered its hull, and one engine was completely gone. It drifted in space like a dead fish. Jake moved his ship closer and scanned the shuttle. One life form inside. Life support was failing. Whoever was in there had maybe an hour left to live. "This is a terrible idea," Jake muttered to himself, but he put on his spacesuit anyway. Jake connected his ship to the shuttle and opened the airlock. Inside, the shuttle was a mess. Broken glass and metal covered the floor. The lights flickered on and off. And in the pilot's seat was a Valorian woman. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with pale blue skin and silver hair that moved on its own. Her blood was dark purple, and there was a lot of it. She was badly hurt. But what caught Jake's attention was her clothes. They were made of some kind of fancy material that seemed to glow, and she wore jewelry that looked expensive. This was not an ordinary Valorian. The woman's eyes opened. They were gold and bright, even in the dim light. She looked at Jake with confusion and then fear. "Human," she whispered in English. Her voice was weak. "You should not be here." "Yeah, well, I'm terrible at following rules," Jake said. He moved closer and checked her injuries. A piece of metal was stuck in her side. Her leg was broken. She needed help fast. "Who attacked you?" Jake asked as he opened his medical kit. "Rebels," the woman said. She coughed, and more purple blood came out. "They killed my guards. I am alone." Jake worked quickly. He gave her medicine for the pain and started cleaning her wounds. The Valorian anatomy was different from human anatomy, but bleeding was bleeding. He had to stop it. "This is going to hurt," Jake warned. Then he pulled the metal piece out of her side. The woman screamed, but Jake was ready. He packed the wound with special foam that stopped bleeding. It was human technology, crude but effective. "Why are you helping me?" the woman asked. Her voice was stronger now. "Humans and Valorians are not friends." "Maybe not," Jake said as he worked on her broken leg. "But I'm not going to let someone die if I can help. That's not who we are." The woman watched him with those gold eyes. She seemed surprised by his words. Jake finished with her leg and gave her more medicine. She would live, at least for now. "I need to get you back to your people," Jake said. "Can you contact them?" The woman nodded. She touched a device on her wrist and spoke in the Valorian language. It sounded like music mixed with thunder. Jake couldn't understand a word. While they waited for rescue, Jake checked the shuttle's damage. It was bad. Someone had fired military weapons at this ship. They had wanted to kill whoever was inside. "What's your name?" Jake asked. The woman hesitated. "Sarah," she finally said. "My name is Sarah. I'm Jake Morrison." "You have saved my life, Jake Morrison," Sarah said. She looked at him with an expression he couldn't read. "That is a debt I cannot repay easily." "No debt," Jake said with a shrug. "Just glad I could help." Before Sarah could respond, alarms started blaring. Jake ran to the window and cursed. 3 ships were approaching. They were small fighters, the kind rebels used. They must have been waiting to make sure Sarah was dead. "They're coming back," Jake said. He ran to his ship. "Stay here and stay down." Jake jumped into his pilot seat and powered up his weapons. They were just basic lasers, nothing fancy. His ship was built for salvage, not fighting, but he had to try. The rebel ships opened fire. Jake's shields absorbed most of the hits, but not all. His ship shook as explosions rocked the hull. Jake gritted his teeth and fired back. He couldn't match their firepower, but he could outthink them. Jake had studied military history his whole life. He knew tactics from 100 Earth battles. These rebels flew in predictable patterns, like they had never faced a creative opponent. Jake led them into an asteroid field. The rebels followed, firing the whole way. Then Jake did something crazy. He flew straight at the largest asteroid and turned off his engines. His ship went dark and drifted like another piece of space rock. The rebels flew past him, looking for their target. Jake waited 3 seconds, then powered up and fired at their backs. One rebel ship exploded, the other 2 panicked and crashed into each other trying to dodge. Jake didn't wait around. He grabbed the Valorian shuttle with a tractor beam and ran. His engines screamed as he pushed them to maximum speed. Behind him, the 2 remaining rebel ships gave chase, but they were damaged and slow. 10 minutes later, massive Valorian warships appeared. They were beautiful and terrifying, covered in weapons and shields. The rebel ships turned and fled. They didn't get far. The Valorian ships destroyed them with single shots. One warship approached Jake's ship. A voice spoke in English. "Human vessel, power down your weapons. You are in the presence of royalty." Jake's hands froze on the controls. Royalty? He looked back at Sarah through the window. She was sitting up now, watching him. Her expression was calm but sad. "I am Princess Sarah," she said over the communication channel, "daughter of Queen Lysara, and this human just saved my life." Jake felt his stomach drop. He had just saved a princess, an alien princess, the daughter of the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. "Oh, this is bad," Jake whispered. "This is really, really bad." But it was too late to turn back now. The Valorian ships surrounded him, and his simple life as a salvage operator was over. Whether he liked it or not, Jake Morrison had just stepped into a much bigger world. The journey to Valoris Prime took 3 days. Jake's small ship followed the massive Valorian warships through space. He spent most of that time trying not to panic. Princess Sarah called him every day to check on him. She seemed worried about how the court would treat him. She explained that most Valorians looked down on humans. They thought humans were too young and violent to matter in the galaxy. "They will not be kind," Sarah warned him. "Many nobles will see you as an embarrassment. They cannot accept that a human saved me when my own guards failed." "Should I just go home?" Jake asked. "I can leave before we get there." "No," Sarah said firmly. "I owe you my life, and I will not let them hurt you. You are under my protection now." Jake wasn't sure if that made him feel better or worse. When they finally arrived at Valoris Prime, Jake couldn't believe his eyes. The entire planet was one giant city. Buildings stretched as far as he could see, reaching up into the clouds. Ships flew between the towers in organized streams. Everything glowed with soft light. It made Earth's biggest cities look like small villages. Jake's ship was guided to a landing platform on one of the tallest towers. When he stepped out, he saw a crowd of Valorians waiting. They all stared at him like he was some kind of strange animal. Sarah was there too, looking much better. She wore a long dress that changed colors as she moved. Her wounds were healed, thanks to Valorian medicine. She smiled when she saw Jake. "Welcome to my home," she said. "Come, I will show you to your room." As they walked through the palace, Jake felt completely out of place. Everything was too big, too beautiful, too perfect. Servants and guards watched him pass. None of them smiled. His room was larger than his entire ship. It had a huge bed, a bathroom with water that floated in the air, and windows that showed the city below. Jake sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. "What am I doing here?" he muttered. Over the next few days, Jake learned how the Valorian court worked. It was all about rules and rank. Who you were born as determined everything. Nobles gave orders and everyone else obeyed. Questions were considered rude. New ideas were seen as dangerous. It was the opposite of human culture. Humans valued people who thought for themselves and challenged the old ways. No wonder the Valorians thought humans were primitive. Sarah spent as much time with Jake as she could. She asked him endless questions about Earth and human history. She was especially interested in how humans had fought so many wars against each other, but still reached the stars. "Your people never give up," Sarah said one evening as they watched the sunset from a balcony. "Even when you fail, you try again. Valorians are not like that. We follow tradition. We do what has always been done." "That sounds boring," Jake said without thinking. Then he realized he had just insulted an entire civilization. "Sorry, I didn't mean—" Sarah laughed. It was the first time Jake had heard her laugh. "No, you are right. It is boring. That is why I like talking to you. You say what you think." But not everyone was as friendly as Sarah. Jake met many nobles who made it clear they didn't want him there. One of them was Lord Vex, a tall Valorian with dark red skin and sharp teeth. "A human in the royal palace," Vex said one day when he saw Jake in a hallway. "How strange. Tell me, human, do you know your place?" "My place?" Jake asked. "Yes, below us. Humans are children playing with rockets. You have no business in our affairs." Vex smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "The princess may protect you now, but that will not last forever." Jake wanted to punch him, but he knew that would only make things worse, so he just walked away. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He decided to walk around the palace. Maybe some fresh air would help. As he walked through the gardens, he heard voices. He stopped and listened. "The plan is set," a voice said. It sounded like Lord Vex. "The rebels will attack the frontier worlds. People will be scared. They will demand action. And you will give them a target," another voice said. "The humans." "Exactly. We will tell the people that humans are dangerous, that they must be controlled before they become a threat. The Queen will have no choice but to act." Jake's blood ran cold. This was a conspiracy. They were planning to start a war between humans and Valorians. "What about the princess?" the second voice asked. "She is a problem," Vex said. "She likes the human too much. She asks too many questions. But accidents happen, especially in war." Jake's hands clenched into fists. They were planning to hurt Sarah. He had to tell someone. He carefully backed away from the garden and ran to find her. Sarah was in her private rooms, reading something on a glowing screen. She looked up in surprise when Jake burst in without knocking. "Jake? What's wrong?" "It's Lord Vex," Jake said, breathing hard. "He's planning something. He wants to start a war with humanity, and I think he wants to hurt you." Sarah's eyes went wide. "What? How do you know this?" Jake told her everything he had heard. Sarah listened carefully, her expression growing darker with each word. "This is treason," she said quietly. "If what you say is true, Vex is betraying everything we stand for." "Do you believe me?" Jake asked. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. "Yes," she finally said. "I believe you. You have no reason to lie, and Vex has always wanted more power." She stood up and began pacing. "But we need proof. If we accuse him without evidence, he will deny everything, and many nobles will believe him over a human. So what do we do?" "We must tell my mother," Sarah said. The Queen needs to know about this threat. Jake felt his stomach twist. Your mother? The Queen? Are you sure that's a good idea? It is the only way, Sarah said. She took his hand. I know you are scared, but you are not alone. I will stand with you. The next day, arrangements were made for Jake to appear before Queen Lysara. The news spread through the palace like fire. A human was going to address the Queen. It was unheard of. Sophie Chen, the human diplomat stationed on Valoris Prime, came to see Jake that morning. She was a small woman with gray hair and worried eyes. I heard what's happening, Sophie said. Jake, you don't have to do this. We can get you out of here. Put you on a ship back to Earth. I can't leave, Jake said. Not if there's a conspiracy against humans, and not while Sarah is in danger. Sophie sighed. You really care about her, don't you? Jake didn't answer, but his face said everything. Okay, Sophie said. Then let me give you some advice. Queen Lysara is old, older than our entire civilization. She's seen everything. Don't try to impress her, don't make excuses, just tell her the truth. That's all you can do. Tell her the truth, Jake repeated. Got it. And Jake? Whatever happens in there, remember that you represent all of humanity. Your words matter, your actions matter. Don't let them make you feel small. Jake nodded. He understood. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about how Valorians saw all humans. If he failed, it would hurt every human in the galaxy. The throne room was the largest room Jake had ever seen. It stretched for what looked like miles. Thousands of nobles filled the space, all dressed in fancy clothes. They all turned to watch as Jake walked forward with Sarah beside him. At the far end of the room, on a platform of pure light, sat Queen Lysara. She was enormous, at least 8 feet tall, with skin that sparkled like stars. Her hair floated around her head like a silver cloud. Her eyes were ancient and sharp. Jake felt like an ant approaching a mountain. When they finally reached the base of the platform, Sarah bowed deeply. Jake copied her, trying not to fall over. His legs felt like water. The Queen's voice filled the entire room. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Who is this that walks beside you, daughter? Sarah straightened up and spoke clearly. My human companion, Your Majesty. The court exploded in whispers. A companion? That word meant something important to Valorians. It meant equal friend, someone worthy of respect. Queen Lysara leaned forward. Her golden eyes focused on Jake like the sun. Tell me, human, she said. Why are you here? Jake stood before the most powerful being in the known galaxy. His mouth was dry. His heart pounded so hard he thought everyone could hear it. All those nobles were watching him, waiting for him to fail. But then he remembered Sophie's words. Tell the truth. Don't let them make you feel small. I'm here because I found your daughter dying in space, Jake said. His voice was steady even though his hands shook. I helped her because it was the right thing to do. And I'm here now because someone is planning to betray you. More whispers filled the room. Queen Lysara raised one hand, and everyone went silent. Explain, the Queen commanded. Jake told her everything. He described finding Sarah's damaged shuttle. He explained how he fought the rebels to protect her. And then he told her about the conversation he had overheard in the garden. About Lord Vex's plan to start a war between humans and Valorians. When Jake finished, Queen Lysara sat back on her throne. Her face showed no emotion. Jake had no idea if she believed him or thought he was crazy. These are serious accusations, the Queen said. Do you have proof? No, Jake admitted. I only have what I heard. Then why should I believe you? The Queen's voice wasn't angry. She sounded genuinely curious. You are human. You have been here for less than a week. Why should I believe you over Lord Vex, who has served my family for generations? Jake thought about that. It was a fair question. He had no proof. He had no status. He was nobody in this world of ancient nobles and old traditions. But he had something else, something that mattered more. Because I have nothing to gain by lying, Jake said, and everything to lose. If I'm wrong about this, I look like a fool. Your people already think humans are primitive. This would just prove them right. He paused. But if I'm right and I say nothing, people will die. Maybe your daughter, maybe thousands of others. I can't let that happen, even if it means looking stupid. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to Sarah. What do you say, daughter? Do you believe this human? Yes, mother, Sarah said without hesitation. I trust him with my life. He saved me when he could have left me to die. He fought 3 rebel ships to protect me, and he asks for nothing in return. She looked at Jake with warmth in her eyes. That is not the behavior of a liar. Queen Lysara nodded slowly. Very well. I will investigate these claims. She looked at Jake again. But words are easy, human. Anyone can make promises. Anyone can tell stories. If you truly wish to prove that your people are worthy of my respect, you must do more than speak. What do you want me to do? Jake asked. The Queen stood up. She was even more impressive standing. Her presence filled the entire room. The Empire faces a crisis, she said. On the frontier world of Keth 7, a plague is killing my people. Thousands have died. Our best doctors have tried everything, but they cannot stop it. The disease is unlike anything we have seen before. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. A plague? What did that have to do with him? If you can help solve this crisis, the Queen continued, I will consider humanity worthy of my attention. I will investigate the conspiracy you speak of, and I will give humans a chance to prove they can stand as equals in this galaxy. But I'm not a doctor, Jake said. I'm just a salvage operator. I fix ships, not people. Then bring human doctors, the Queen said simply. Use human knowledge. Use human creativity. I have been told that humans are resourceful, that you find solutions where others see only problems. Prove it. Jake wanted to argue. This wasn't fair. He had just saved the princess. He had warned them about a conspiracy. Why did he have to do more? But he looked around the throne room at all those noble faces. Most of them were smiling now. They thought he would fail. They wanted him to fail. It would prove that humans were weak and useless. Jake thought about Sophie's words again. You represent all of humanity. Your words matter. Your actions matter. If he refused this challenge, humans would never be respected. They would always be seen as children playing in space. But if he succeeded, everything could change. I'll do it, Jake said. I'll go to Keth 7 and help however I can. Queen Lysara almost smiled. Good. You have courage, human. That is something. Whether you have wisdom remains to be seen. I'm going with him, Sarah announced. Her voice rang out across the throne room. Jake Morrison is my companion. His quest is my quest. Daughter, that is not necessary, the Queen said. This is a task for humans to prove themselves. Then I will observe, Sarah said firmly, and I will protect him from those who wish him harm. You know there are many who do not want him to succeed. The Queen and Princess stared at each other. It was a battle of wills. Finally, the Queen nodded. Very well, but be careful, both of you. The plague on Keth 7 is dangerous, and your enemies will not stop just because you leave this world. As Jake and Sarah left the throne room, Jake felt both relieved and terrified. He had survived his meeting with the Queen, but now he had an impossible task ahead of him. That went well, Sarah said with a small smile. Are you crazy? Jake asked. She wants me to cure a plague that Valorian doctors can't cure? How is that going well? You are still alive, Sarah pointed out. And my mother respected you enough to give you a chance. Many humans would not get even that much. Jake couldn't argue with that logic. They spent the rest of the day preparing for the trip to Keth 7. Jake contacted Sophie and explained the situation. She immediately started calling for help. I know some human doctors who would love this chance, Sophie said. Dr. Emma Rodriguez is a xenobiologist. She studies alien diseases. And Ryan Park is a field medic with experience in crisis situations. I'll have them meet you on Keth 7. Thank you, Jake said. He felt a little better knowing he wouldn't be alone in this. That evening, Jake was packing his things when someone knocked on his door. He opened it and found Lord Vex standing there. The tall Valorian smiled his sharp-toothed smile. I hear you're leaving for Keth 7, Vex said. How brave of you. Or should I say foolish? What do you want? Jake asked. He didn't have time for this. I wanted to wish you luck, Vex said. You will need it. The plague on Keth 7 is quite deadly. Many Valorians have died there. A weak human would not last long in such conditions. Jake understood the real message. Vex was threatening him. He wanted Jake to know that accidents could happen on a plague world. No one would question it if a human died there. I'm not weak, Jake said, and I'm not afraid of you. Vex's smile faded. You should be human. You are interfering in things you do not understand. This galaxy does not need your kind. We were doing fine before you arrived. Were you? Jake asked. Because from what I've seen, your empire is rotting from the inside. You're so focused on tradition and rank that you can't see the problems right in front of you. Maybe that's why you need humans. We're not afraid to change things. Vex's eyes narrowed. Careful, human. The princess will not always be there to protect you. I don't need protection from you, Jake said. I've faced worse than scheming nobles. At least rebels shoot you honestly. After Vex left, Jake sat on his bed and took a deep breath. He had just made things worse. Now Vex knew that Jake wasn't going to back down. The conspiracy would try harder to stop him, but Jake couldn't show fear. Not now. Too many people were counting on him. Sarah came to see him before they left. She looked worried. Vex came to threaten you, didn't he? She asked. How did you know? I have spies of my own, Sarah said. I know what happens in this palace. Jake, you must be careful. Vex is dangerous. He has allies throughout the Empire. If you get in his way, he will try to kill you. Let him try, Jake said. He was tired of being pushed around. I'm not going anywhere. Sarah smiled. You really are very human, you know. Always ready to fight, even when you should run. Is that a bad thing? No, Sarah said softly. It is exactly what we need. The next morning, Jake and Sarah boarded a ship bound for Keth 7. Several Valorian guards came with them, loyal soldiers who answered only to the princess. They would provide protection and help with the mission. As the ship lifted off from Valoris Prime, Jake watched the beautiful city disappear below. He wondered if he would ever see it again. Nervous? Sarah asked. She sat next to him in the passenger area. Terrified, Jake admitted. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm just some guy who fixes broken ships. You are more than that, Sarah said. You are someone who does the right thing, even when it is hard. That is rare, Jake, even among my people. She placed her hand on his. I believe in you. My mother believes in you too, even if she does not show it. You will find a way. Humans always do. Jake looked at their hands together, human and Valorian. It should have looked strange, but somehow it felt right. I hope you're right, Jake said, because if I fail, it's not just me who suffers. It's every human in the galaxy. Then we will make sure you do not fail, Sarah said firmly. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, and Keth 7 waited ahead of them. a plague world where thousands were dying, where human medicine and creativity would be tested against an impossible challenge. Jake closed his eyes and tried to rest. He would need all his strength for what was coming. Keth 7 looked sick from space. The planet's cities, which should have glowed with light, were dim and dark. Many areas showed no signs of life at all. As their ship descended through the atmosphere, Jake could see the damage up close. Streets were empty, buildings were abandoned, medical tents filled the parks and open spaces. This world was dying. Governor Thane met them at the landing pad. He was an old Valorian with gray skin and tired eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Princess Sarah," he said with a bow, "you honor us with your presence, though I wish it were under better circumstances." "How bad is it?" Sarah asked. "Very bad," Thane said. "The Red Death, as people call it, has killed over 50,000. More get sick every day. We have tried everything our medicine can do. Nothing works. The disease just spreads faster." Jake felt sick to his stomach. 50,000 dead. How could he possibly help with something that big? "Show us the medical facilities," Sarah said, "and the patients. We need to see what we are dealing with." The hospital was a nightmare. Hundreds of Valorians lay on beds, their skin covered in red sores. They coughed up purple blood. Many were unconscious. Doctors and nurses moved between the beds, but there was nothing they could do except make patients comfortable while they died. Jake had seen death before. Space was dangerous, and salvage work had shown him plenty of bodies. But this was different. This was organized suffering, a plague that killed slowly and painfully. "The disease attacks the nervous system," one Valorian doctor explained. "It causes pain, fever, and eventually organ failure. We have tried every antiviral medication we have. We have tried antibiotics. We have tried experimental treatments. Nothing stops it." "How long from infection to death?" Jake asked. "About 2 weeks," the doctor said. "The first symptoms appear after 3 days, red marks on the skin. Then comes the fever and pain. After a week, internal bleeding begins. By the end of the second week, the patient is dead." Jake took notes on his portable computer. He wasn't a doctor, but he could gather information. He could ask questions. That was a start. Dr. Emma Rodriguez arrived that afternoon on a human transport ship. She was in her 40s with dark hair tied back in a bun. She moved quickly and spoke even faster. Ryan Park came with her, a young man with kind eyes and steady hands. "Show me everything," Emma said immediately. She didn't waste time with introductions. Within an hour, she was examining sick Valorians and taking samples of their blood and tissue. Jake watched her work. She was completely focused. She asked the Valorian doctors dozens of questions. She wanted to see how the disease progressed. She wanted to know if any patients had survived. She studied the medical scans and genetic data. By evening, Emma gathered everyone in a meeting room. She looked troubled. "This isn't a natural plague," she said. "The disease is too perfect, too efficient. It targets Valorian biology specifically, like it was designed to do that." "Designed?" Sarah asked. "You mean this is a weapon?" "I think so," Emma said. She pulled up images on a screen. "Look at this. The disease's genetic structure has been modified. Someone took existing viruses, changed them, and created something new, something deadly." Jake felt cold. This confirmed what he had suspected. Lord Vex wasn't just planning to use fear to start a war. He was creating that fear himself by releasing a bioweapon. "There's more," Emma continued. "The base genetic material comes from human viruses, specifically modified versions of influenza and hemorrhagic fever viruses. Someone with knowledge of both human and Valorian biology made this." "Why would they use human viruses?" Thane asked. He looked angry now. "To make it look like humans created it," Jake said quietly. "To give the Empire a reason to hate us." Everyone in the room understood. This wasn't just about killing Valorians. It was about framing humanity for a terrible crime. When the truth came out, no one would trust humans. War would be inevitable. "Can you cure it?" Sarah asked Emma. "Maybe," Emma said, "but not with Valorian methods. They're trying to fight the disease directly with medicines. That's not working because the disease adapts too quickly. We need a different approach." "What approach?" Jake asked. "We treat it like we would treat a human disease," Emma explained. "We use the patient's own immune system. We teach the body to fight the disease itself." The Valorian doctors looked skeptical. One of them, a young woman named Kira, spoke up. "We have tried immune therapy. It does not work. The disease kills too quickly for the body to develop defenses." "That's because you're doing it wrong," Emma said bluntly. "No offense, but Valorian medicine is too advanced for its own good. You're so used to having perfect cures that you've forgotten how to fight diseases the hard way. Humans have been dealing with plagues for our entire history. We know how to do this." Emma laid out a plan. They would use a combination of treatments. First, they would slow the disease down with medications that didn't kill it but weakened it. Then, they would introduce modified antibodies that taught the patient's immune system what to fight. Finally, they would use supportive care to keep patients alive long enough for their bodies to win the battle. It was risky. It was crude compared to Valorian medicine. But it might work. "We'll need volunteers," Emma said. "Patients who are willing to try an experimental treatment. If this works, we can make enough cure for everyone. If it fails—" She didn't finish the sentence. "I'll find volunteers," Thane said. "Many are dying anyway. They would take any chance to live." Over the next week, Emma and Ryan worked day and night. They set up a special treatment facility. They prepared the medications and antibodies, and they began treating the first group of 10 volunteers. Jake helped however he could. He ran supplies. He translated between human and Valorian medical terms. He talked to patients and tried to give them hope. Sarah worked just as hard. She visited every patient in the hospital. She held their hands and told them they were not forgotten. For many dying Valorians, seeing their princess care about them was the first comfort they had felt in weeks. Ryan Park impressed everyone. He worked directly with the sickest patients, despite the risk to himself. He had a young daughter back on Earth who he talked about constantly. But he never hesitated to help, even when dealing with highly contagious patients. "Why do you risk yourself?" Kira asked him one day. "You could go home. This is not your world." "These are still people," Ryan said simply. "Doesn't matter if they're human or Valorian. They need help, and I can give it. That's enough reason for me." After 3 days of treatment, the first volunteer showed improvement. Her fever dropped. The red marks on her skin faded. Her blood tests showed that her immune system was fighting the disease. After 5 days, 3 more volunteers showed improvement. After a week, 9 out of 10 volunteers were recovering. The 10th had been too sick when treatment started, and his body couldn't handle the stress. But 9 out of 10 was better than 0 out of 10. The news spread through Keth 7 like wildfire. There was a cure. The humans had found a cure. People who had given up hope started to believe again. Emma began producing the treatment in larger quantities. Valorian doctors, who had been skeptical at first, now worked side by side with the human team. They learned the techniques. They saw that sometimes simple methods worked better than complex ones. Within 2 weeks, hundreds of patients were being treated. The death rate dropped dramatically. Keth 7 was being saved. Jake finally allowed himself to feel relieved. They had done it. Humans had proved their worth. Queen Lysara would have to respect them now. But that night, alarms started blaring throughout the medical facility. Jake ran outside and saw ships descending from the sky. Military ships, but not Valorian Royal Navy. These had different markings. They belonged to Lord Vex's personal fleet. It's an attack, Sarah said. She had come running from her quarters. Vex is making his move. Soldiers poured out of the ships. They wore battle armor and carried heavy weapons. They began advancing toward the medical facility where Emma and Ryan were still working. They're going to destroy everything, Jake realized. The cure, the evidence, all of it. And they'll blame the human plague for it. Sarah immediately ordered her guards to form a defensive line. But there were only 20 of them against hundreds of attackers. "We need to evacuate the patients," Ryan shouted. He was already helping sick Valorians out of their beds. "There's no time," Kira said. Her face was pale with fear. "They will be here in minutes." Jake looked around desperately. The medical facility was not built for defense. It was just a large building with thin walls. They had no heavy weapons, no shields, nothing to stop an army, but they had human creativity. And humans were very good at fighting when they had to be. "We're not evacuating," Jake said. "We're turning this place into a fortress." Everyone stared at him like he was crazy. But Jake was already moving. He had spent 10 years in space dealing with emergencies and limited resources. He knew how to improvise. "Ryan, take all the oxygen tanks and put them near the entrances," Jake ordered. "If they breach the doors, we'll make them explode. That will slow them down." "Emma, can you make the cure production equipment release toxic gases if damaged?" "Yes, but that would ruin everything we've made," Emma said. "Better than letting Vex steal it. Set it up as a last resort." "Kira, gather all the medical scanners. We'll use them to detect where the attackers are coming from. They use different energy than Valorians, so we can track them. Guards, take any heavy equipment you can find and barricade the windows and weak points. Use hospital beds, machines, whatever you can move." People scrambled to follow his orders. They were afraid, but they had a plan now. That was better than nothing. Sarah watched Jake coordinate the defense with admiration. "You have done this before," she said. "Not exactly," Jake admitted. "But I've read a lot about Earth's military history. Humans have defended against impossible odds hundreds of times. We're really good at not giving up." The first attack came fast. Soldiers hit the main entrance with explosive charges. But the blast triggered the oxygen tanks Jake had placed there. The resulting explosion threw the attackers back and blocked the entrance with rubble. They tried the side doors next. More oxygen tanks. More explosions. The facility was surrounded by fire now, but the patients inside were safe. "They'll try the roof next," Jake predicted. And he was right. Soldiers began rappelling down from hovering ships. But Jake had prepared for that too. The Valorian guards used the medical scanners to pinpoint exactly where the soldiers would land. Then they hit those spots with fire from captured weapons. The battle lasted for hours. Wave after wave of Vex's soldiers attacked the medical facility. But each time, Jake and his defenders found a way to stop them. They used every trick Jake could think of, every lesson from human military history. Inside the facility, Ryan and Emma continued treating patients even as explosions shook the walls. They refused to stop their work. Lives were still being saved with every minute they bought. "This is insane," Kira said as she helped reload weapons. "We are doctors and engineers fighting trained soldiers. We should be dead by now." "Humans are stubborn that way," Emma said with a grim smile. "We don't die easy." But Jake knew they couldn't hold out forever. Vex's forces were regrouping for a final assault. They were bringing up heavy weapons that would level the entire building. "We need help," Jake said to Sarah. "Can you contact your mother?" "I have been trying," Sarah said. Her face was covered in dust and purple blood from helping wounded guards. "But something is blocking our communications. Vex must have jammers in place." "Then we need to take out the jammers," Jake said. He looked at the map of the area on his computer. "There, that ship hovering over the east side. That's the command vessel. The jammers will be there." "We cannot reach it," one of the guards said. "It is too high and too well defended." "Maybe you can't," Jake said. "But I can." "What are you planning?" Sarah asked. Jake pointed to a maintenance tunnel on the map. This runs under the hospital and comes up near the landing pad where Vex's troops first landed. One of their small fighters is still there. If I can reach it, I can fly up to that command ship. That is suicide, Sarah said. You will be shot down before you get close. Maybe, Jake agreed. But it's the only chance we have. If I can take out those jammers, you can call for help. Your mother's fleet can be here in hours. I forbid it, Sarah said. Her golden eyes were fierce. I will not let you throw your life away. It's not your choice, Jake said gently. This is what humans do, Sarah. We take crazy risks because someone has to, and I'm the best pilot here. Before Sarah could argue more, a massive explosion rocked the building. Part of the west wall collapsed. Soldiers poured through the gap. Go! Ryan shouted at Jake. We'll hold them here, but hurry! Jake ran. He found the maintenance tunnel entrance and dropped down into the darkness. The tunnel was narrow and filled with pipes. He crawled as fast as he could, his heart pounding. Behind him, he could hear more explosions, more fighting. His friends were dying to buy him time. The tunnel seemed to go on forever. Jake's hands were bloody from scraping against rough metal. His lungs burned, but he kept moving. Finally, he reached a ladder leading up. He climbed and pushed open a hatch. He was near the landing pad, just as the map had shown. The small fighter was there, unguarded. Vex's forces were all focused on the hospital. Jake ran to the fighter and climbed inside. The controls were Valorian, but he had learned enough about their systems over the past few weeks. He powered up the engines and lifted off before anyone could stop him. Immediately, alarms screamed. The command ship had detected him. Other fighters moved to intercept. Jake pushed the fighter to maximum speed. He flew straight at the command ship, dodging enemy fire. Laser blasts filled the air around him. His shields were getting hit hard. Come on, Jake muttered. He was almost there. Then a blast hit his engines. The fighter started to spin out of control. Jake fought with the controls, trying to stabilize. He was going to crash into the command ship. Wait. That might actually work. Jake stopped fighting the spin. Instead, he aimed his crippled fighter right at the command ship's communication array, the section where the jammers would be. Sorry about this, Sarah, Jake whispered. Guess I'm not as smart as I thought. The fighter crashed into the command ship in a ball of fire. Jake felt the impact throw him forward. His head hit something hard. Then everything went black. When Jake woke up, he was lying on the ground. His body hurt everywhere. He could smell smoke and burning metal, but he was alive. More importantly, the jammers were destroyed. The entire communication array was gone, taken out by his crash. Jake tried to stand but fell over. His leg was broken. Maybe a few ribs, too. But he had done it. Above him, the command ship was losing altitude. It was damaged and listing to one side. Around him, Vex's soldiers were retreating in confusion. Without their command center, they didn't know what to do. And in the distance, Jake could see new ships arriving. Royal Valorian warships, Queen Lysara's fleet. Sarah had gotten through. Jake lay back on the ground and started laughing. It hurt, but he couldn't help it. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had actually won. The next thing Jake knew, Sarah was leaning over him. She was crying, which Jake didn't know Valorians could do. Her tears were silver and seemed to glow. "You idiot," she said. "You beautiful, brave idiot. I thought you were dead." "Sorry," Jake said. His voice was weak. "Had to break the jammers. It was the only way." "The healers are coming," Sarah said. She held his hand. "You will be fine. You have to be fine." "Did we save them? The patients?" "Yes. Ryan and Emma got everyone out. No patients died. You saved them all." Jake smiled and closed his eyes. That was good enough. He woke up 3 days later in a proper medical facility. Valorian doctors had fixed his injuries with their advanced technology. He felt better than he had in years. Sarah was sitting next to his bed. She had been there the whole time, the nurses told him. She refused to leave. "Welcome back," Sarah said when she saw him awake. "How long was I out?" 3 days. You had a concussion, broken bones, and internal bleeding. But you will recover fully." "What happened with Vex?" Sarah's expression turned cold. "My mother arrested him and his conspirators. She had evidence of everything, the bioweapon, the attacks, the plans to start a war. Vex is in prison now, awaiting trial for treason." "And the cure?" "Emma and Ryan are training Valorian doctors on how to make it. The plague is under control. Keth 7 will recover." Sarah smiled. "You did it, Jake. You saved an entire world." "We did it," Jake corrected. "All of us together." Later that day, Queen Lysara herself came to visit. The entire hospital staff nearly fainted when she arrived. Queens did not visit random medical facilities, but she walked straight to Jake's room and looked down at him with those ancient golden eyes. "Jake Morrison," she said, "you have proven yourself. When I challenged you to help Keth 7, I expected you to fail. Most humans would have. But you succeeded. You used creativity and courage to solve a problem that defeated our best minds." "I had help," Jake said. "Emma, Ryan, Kira, all the doctors who worked with us, they deserve credit too." "And you shall all receive it," the Queen said. "But you, Jake Morrison, have done more than cure a plague. You have changed how I see humanity." She paused. "I was wrong about your people. You are not primitive. You are not unworthy. You are simply different, and that difference has value." "So, what happens now?" Jake asked. "Now I offer humanity an alliance," the Queen said. "Not as subjects, not as children to be guided, but as equals. Partners who have proven they can stand beside us." She smiled slightly. "Your species has much to teach us. We have forgotten how to struggle, how to improvise, how to fight against impossible odds. These are skills we need to remember." "And in return?" Jake asked. He knew there had to be more to it. "In return, we share our knowledge and technology. We help humanity advance. Together, we will be stronger than either civilization alone." It was everything humanity could have hoped for, a true alliance with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. But the Queen wasn't done. "I have one more question for you, Jake Morrison," she said. She glanced at Sarah, who stood quietly by the window. "My daughter has made her feelings clear. She wishes you to stay, to remain at her side as her companion and advisor, perhaps as something more." Jake looked at Sarah. She was trying to appear calm, but her hands were clasped tight. She was nervous, afraid of what he might say. "If you accept," the Queen continued, "you will be part of the royal family. You will help bridge our two cultures, but you will also give up your simple life. You will be thrust into politics and danger. You will be a symbol of the alliance, always watched and judged. If you refuse, no one will blame you. You have done enough. You can go home to Earth, to your quiet life. You have earned that peace." Jake thought about his ship, the Wanderer, about floating through space with nothing but stars for company. It had been a simple life, safe, predictable, but it had also been lonely. He looked at Sarah, at this princess who had become his friend, who had stood by him when her entire court thought he was worthless, who had seen something in humanity worth believing in. "Can I ask you something?" Jake said to the Queen. "Of course. Do you think humans and Valorians can really work together? Or will your people always see us as inferior?" Queen Lysara considered the question. "Some will always cling to old prejudices," she said honestly. "Change comes slowly to ancient civilizations. But you have started something here, Jake Morrison. You have shown that humans can stand as equals. Others will follow your example. In time, yes. I believe we can work together." That was good enough for Jake. "Then I'll stay," he said. He looked at Sarah and smiled. "Someone has to make sure you guys don't forget what we taught you." Sarah's face lit up with joy. She moved to his bedside and took his hand. "You are sure?" she asked. "You are giving up so much." "I'm gaining more," Jake said. "A home, a purpose. Someone who actually appreciates my terrible jokes." He squeezed her hand. "Yeah, I'm sure." Queen Lysara nodded with satisfaction. "Then it is decided. When you have recovered, we will hold a formal ceremony. Jake Morrison, you will be recognized as Ambassador of Humanity and companion to the Crown Princess." "That's a really long title," Jake said. "You will get used to it," the Queen said with a hint of amusement. Then she left, her guards following her. Sarah sat on the edge of Jake's bed. "Thank you," she said softly, "for choosing this, for choosing us, for choosing me." "Best decision I've ever made," Jake said. And he meant it. 6 months later, Jake stood on a platform in the main square of Valoris Prime. Thousands of Valorians filled the streets. Hundreds of thousands more watched on screens across the Empire. And behind him stood Emma Rodriguez, Ryan Park, Sophie Chen, and dozens of other humans who had helped make this moment possible. Queen Lysara spoke to the crowd. She formally announced the alliance between the Valorian Empire and humanity. She praised the courage and ingenuity humans had shown, and she declared that any human would be welcome in Valorian space, treated with respect and dignity. The crowd cheered. Not all of them, Jake noticed. Some nobles still looked unhappy, but most Valorians were accepting the new reality. Change was happening. After the ceremony, they moved Jake's old ship, the Wanderer, to a museum. It would be displayed as a monument, a reminder of the day one human made a choice that changed everything. Jake stood in front of his old ship with Sarah beside him. It looked small now compared to the massive Valorian vessels in the city, but it had been home for a long time. "Do you regret leaving it behind?" Sarah asked. "Sometimes," Jake admitted. "It was simpler when it was just me and the stars. No politics, no ceremonies, no one depending on me." "You could go back," Sarah said, "if you truly wanted to. I would understand." Jake shook his head. "No, that was the old Jake, the one who ran from complications. But I'm not that person anymore." He took Sarah's hand. "I'm where I need to be, with you, building something bigger than myself." "We will build it together," Sarah said. "Human and Valorian, two cultures learning from each other." "Yeah," Jake agreed. He looked at the crowds of aliens around them, at the human dignitaries who had come from Earth, at Emma and Ryan and all the others who had believed in what was possible. 5 years ago, humanity had been alone. They had no allies, no place in the galaxy. They were seen as primitive and worthless. Now, everything was different, because one human had chosen to help someone in need. And that choice had rippled out, changing the galaxy forever. "You know what's funny?" Jake said to Sarah. "What?" "Your mother asked who I was, and you said I was your human companion, like it was the simplest thing in the world." "It was simple," Sarah said. "You were my friend who saved my life. What else should I have called you? Most people would have said, just a human or a nobody. But you saw me as equal from the start. That's why this worked. That's why we're standing here now." Sarah smiled. "Perhaps I was simply smarter than most people." "Definitely smarter," Jake agreed. They stood together and watched the sun set over Valoris Prime, two people from different worlds, building a future together. And across the galaxy, other humans looked up at the stars and dreamed of what was possible. Because if Jake Morrison could become companion to a princess and ambassador to an empire, then anything was possible. That was the most human thing of all, to look at impossible odds and say, let's try anyway. And sometimes, just sometimes, trying was enough.